testicles would be smaller than a grain of corn. And after you get about 4 or 5, those lambs, the testicle or the scrotum breeding a little bit, there's a real thick or slippery covering over the testicles, and you get to groping in there, especially these little sheepherders. You can imagine how agile their fingers were. And they get to groping in there and try to get the testicles out, and they just couldn't do it. So they took the guy that had the biggest set of buck teeth, the biggest chew of tobacco, and they turned him loose on him.
Which would make it easier to demonstrate that
you can see how much, what a help this was.
Civilization.
Now, these are just some pieces of shearing equipment here. This is a Stewart hand piece from the old shearing equipment that were used, like this machine over here. And Charlie Swain found this in the Sunbeam back in their storage sheds in Chicago when they moved the Sunbeam out, 15, 20 years ago. He found a bunch of these brand new heads back in there that had never been used. They're just like this head here, which was used on this machine over here. I have a shearing attachment for that. But you see, these heads were used to actually shear with. And this is an old Delco machine that Francis Carter gave me, before the electricity got to the places in the West. Why, and a lot of them didn't come in until the 50s sometime before. But this is a shearmaster that was used to, in the Delco plant, at the 32 volt. You could use it either in these places where they had Delco plants to charge the batteries that you used at night, or wind machines. Some of the ranches had these wind turbines using that. And so this was a special shearmaster used on a 32 volt plant. These brand names, I don't know much about them. I don't know how it got in here. It doesn't belong here.
Yeah, it just was relocated temporarily.
Okay, but going to these pictures over here, I guess you'll have to look around the corner. These are King Brothers sheep. This is McKinley of Mount Marino, who was champion ram at Chicago in 1895. And King Brothers bought him. Well, you can see the difficulty there of shearing something like that. Wouldn't that be a problem? That would be real fine wool with a lot of oil and grease in it. But that's what they were using out here. Then this backing around the corner here is a Big Chief. This is 1915. This is 1895. This is 1915. And that's the largest Rambouillet ram on record, it says, the Bronx King Brothers Company. Before we leave, this is about a 1922 or 23 shearmaster. Somebody's got away with a course on that. There. I'm supposed to have a nut on it. Bring one up.
Where was the King Brothers?
It's at the hand crank machine.
You have grease on your hand. Other than, did it come line right?
Thank you.
Yes. Where?
This is about a 1924 or 26 model, I think. And it's was made to, this is a horse cattle shearing attachment on there now. That's a hair shearing brush on there. But I have the shearing attachment before at home. It's a solid a double arm thing. It's like that. And you use one of those shearing heads like that on it. So this was a, here's the, no, that's the older 1902 one. I have one of these at home too, and I picked it up at the State Fair a couple of years ago and never got it back down here. This is an old 1902 one. It has a flywheel on it, and this is a shearing attachment, or a clipping attachment on here now, just like this one, but I have the shearing attachments. They're just a double arm, come out like that. But I'd like to bring that other one back up here sometime to display it up here. It isn't doing anybody any good in my garage. But going to these are King Brothers sheep. I'd like to talk a little about the King Brothers over here. This is Francis King. That was the older brother. He'd been over here several years when Joe came over, and Herbert came over.
From?
Pardon?
Where did they come from?
From England, from the Isle of Man. And Joe was the one I knew. Herbert was around for many years. He was secretary of the Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation for many years. But Joe was the one that I knew, because Joe was interested in why I was coaching the livestock judging teams and working with the sheep. So Joe spent a lot of time in my office. He lived right over here in this brick house right on the corner. That was the old King home. And Joe was a little opinionated. In fact, every time I'd get home from a judging trip, from a judging team, Joe would meet me at the door of the office. What's the matter? What's the matter? He's one of the boys smarter than the kids. They're smarter than Ohio State. But they're not one of the judges here. Why aren't you one of the judges down here? And so Joe gave me a lot of good fatherly advice. Years that I was here. We had my first judging team, second judging team. The first one was at Denver. Second one, we went to Kansas City and won the hog contest down there. I was about 16 or 20 major schools in the United States. We won the hog. And Mick Bobkin was high man in hogs. And when I got home and told Joe about it, I don't know which hurt him the worst, the fact that we only placed 4th or 5th in sheep or something like that, or the fact that we won the hogs. He just couldn't understand. As far as Joe was concerned, anybody, the hogs were just something from outer space. He didn't know anything about them. He just couldn't understand how a bunch of sheep herders and ranch hands from Wyoming could win the hogs. But that was, and that's my biggest regret, one of my big ones, is that I didn't go out and talk to Joe and get some of these old stories. I just remember a few of the stories he just told me in passing, like this bit about locking the sheepmen up in jail here. But Joe didn't come over to Laramie until 1890. His mother wouldn't let him come over. He was the youngest son. And she wouldn't let him make the trip from the Isle of Man to Laramie until he was 16 years old. So he had to wait at home until he was 16 before he could make the trip. And he still resented that 50 years later. He loved his mother, but he still resented the fact that she made him stay home and wait 4 or 5 or 6 good years when he could have been over here doing something. So he came in 1890. He came on the same ship with Mrs. General Custer. And when she found out here was this poor little boy coming to the wilds of Wyoming, she kind of took him under her wing, and she said about all the wilds he'd have to face over here in the wild Indians. That was only, I've been 14 years after the Custer battle, see, so she was still pretty much concerned, so she warned him about all the wild Indians and things he'd encountered in Wyoming when he got over here. So she kind of took him under her wing. But he was responsible for these things over here. Have you been to King Brothers Ranch? Any of you? The old King Brothers Ranch. It's 8 miles out north of town. It's gone to pot now. 2 of the big buildings have burned down. Here's this house over here. Here's the lambing shed. That was a lambing shed, the shearing shed with all the beds in it there. Big barn, that's burned down. And those that haven't burned down are fallen down, so it's just a wreck out there now.
So if we were to drive out there, what road would you take to go out?
You can drive out, it's owned by some fellow in Saratoga now. And he did keep a hand out here in the house during the summertime. He ran cattle over here. But I don't think there's anybody been out there now.
But right now, if I were to get in my car and drive out there, how would I get there?
Best way would be to go out old US 30 to
Bosler? Toward Bosler?
Hmm?
Toward Bosler.
Yeah, towards Bosler. But it's only about 8 miles out, and it's before you get to where that Pete Burns and those outfits are built up there. You turn off out here, and I don't think there's a sign. There used to be a King Brothers sign. It's not there. But it's a road that turns east. You go back about 4 or 5 miles and you come into the old headquarters here.
East or west? West, east? East. Okay.
You turn off of US 30, go east.
So east.
Yeah. But as I say, it's just ruins here now. These buildings, the big old shed back here, all of it is burned. These are gone. 2 or 3 are falling down. The house still looks pretty good because, like I say, he had a man in it recently. Now, the King Brothers Ranch was the home of 3 of the major breeds of sheep in the United States at the present time. They brought over, they started Ramblers. I remember Joe told me the story. He went to the 1893, wasn't it, World's Fair in Chicago, 93. Anyway, Joe went to that. He didn't take any sheep. But Baron von Hohmeyer from Germany had brought some Ramblers over. And they were, pretty much like that. And Joe said, those Ramblers were the most beautiful things that I'd ever seen in my life. Since they were, I knew I had to have some. So he went to the Baron who was there with the sheep, where his man was, and tried to buy them. Joe said, so-and-so wouldn't sell them to me? I'm sure he had them sold before he came in. But Joe was still better 50 years later because that old Baron von Hohmeyer wouldn't sell him those sheep to the King Brothers. So he said, I just went over to Germany the next year and bought some over there. So he went to Germany and toured several countries over there and brought back the Ramblers. So this is the first bunch of Ramblers. The King Brothers had the first bunch of Ramblers west of Mississippi. There are a few scattered around in the east and Michigan before that. Then Frank King Heron was appointed by the USDA to go over to Australia and New Zealand and buy some Corriedales for the USDA. Corriedales are medium wool sheep. And they needed wool in the United States that was way a little more than the extremely fine wool, greasy wool that they were getting off the fine wool. So he and a man from the USDA spent one entire summer, so that would be our winter, in Australia and New Zealand and visited a lot of the plants. And they brought back about 25 head of ewes and 3 or 4 rams for the USDA, and he brought over 14 head of ewes and a couple of rams for the King Brothers Company. And they were all brought out to the King Brothers Ranch out here, but when they got the sheep deal in Maryland, when they moved the USDA sheep out back to Maryland in their station, but the King Brothers had the first Corriedales in the United States. And that was 2 breeds that they pretty much started. And then they made the first crosses out here for the Columbia sheep, which is a major breed now. And at that time, the USDA station in Du Bois wasn't quite finished, so they did the USDA work, had their sheep with the King brothers out here and the university sheep. And they made the first crosses out here on the Rambouillet ewes from all over the country. They used some King brothers Rambouillet, University of Wyoming Rambouillet. They brought some up from Texas and from different outfits, and they had about 40 or 50 Rambouillet ewes that they crossed on Longwool Ranch. And that made this is a Lincoln Rambouillet cross, and that developed the Columbia. So there are actually three major sheep breeds in the United States at the present time were started right here at the King Brothers Ranch. Well, I think that's about all. You folks are been here long enough anyway. Unless there are any questions, this is a sheep staff that Norm Strong used on his sheep. Used on his ranch for a long time, like that. This is a canned dog.
A what?
Canned dog. I heard he would carry something like this along behind the rattle with rocks in it to scare the ewes if he was short on dogs. He didn't have a dog to do it. Called it a canned dog. I don't know who brought that in. I was just hanging here one time.
You told me about that years ago. I've told a lot of people about that.
Not the canned dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I read some of Ivan Doyle's books, and they mentioned this in sheep herding in Montana. So I knew you told me the right story.
At least I repeated it. That's one thing I tell them on these ranch stories. These people will be concerned about whether they're going to get the date just right or not on this. And I said, you can tell those folks anything because there's no way they can disprove it. You can tell them anything you want to.
I want to know if there are any sheep herders' shearing sheds left anywhere in the Red Desert that could be like brought to the territorial park. That would be so.
The only the old size, see, they built 1822, I guess, Australian type shearing sheds here in the United States. Dean Hill was very instrumental and trying to get them in here and get them established. The first one was at west of Wamsutter, right out in the country there, about 8 miles from the railroad. That was the first shed that was built, and that was in 1913. They built several sheds in 1914, and then the rest of them were built between the other 18 or 20 were built between that and 1921. We had one out here just south of town